what if the deepest betrayal could actually be the most profound act of love?
That's a powerful question.
And, what if the real path to peace wasn't about fighting your enemies, but actually collaborating with them?
Even if it meant risking everything, your identity, your family.
Exactly, risking everything.
Well, today we're diving deep into a story that embodies exactly those paradoxes.
We are. It's the extraordinary real-life story of Mosab Hassan Yousef, born, right into the heart of the Palestinian resistance.
The eldest son of a co-founder of Hamas, no less.
But he became known by a secret Israeli code name, the Green Prince.
So our mission here really is to unpack his incredible journey. We want to explore his unique perspective.
Yeah, a perspective forged by navigating the incredibly complex and often brutal world of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from, well, pretty much every angle imaginable.
Right, from inside the Hamas leadership to Israeli prisons, and then, unbelievably, as a top agent for the Shin Bet, the Israeli security service.
We're going to trace the unexpected transformations that led him to make choices you can barely conceive of. Choices that really challenge our usual ideas about heroism, about loyalty.
And maybe what it truly means to find peace when you're surrounded by conflict.
It's a story that honestly forces you to rethink a lot.
Definitely.
So, okay, to really get a handle on Mosab's journey, we need to start at the beginning. What was his early life like? What set the scene?
Well, he was born in Ramallah in the West Bank.
Yeah.
And his family was one of the most devoutly religious Islamic families in the Middle East. That context is crucial.
Right. And his early life was really shaped by these incredibly strong traditions.
Very much so. He had this deep admiration for his grandfather, Sheikh Yusuf Dawood.
Right.
He was a revered imam in his village, Al-Jania, a real central figure for the community, involved in everything from whispering the adhan, the call to prayer in a newborn's ear, to washing the bodies of the dead for burial.
Wow, so deeply embedded in the fabric of life there. And his father, Sheikh Hassan Yousef, also a major figure.
Hugely influential, trained in Sharia law, that's Islamic religious law, and he became this powerful religious leader himself.
What was his initial focus?
Initially, it was very much about serving his people, urging a return to sort of fundamental Islamic principles. This actually contrasted quite a bit with the more secular vibe in Ramallah at the time.
Which highlights something important, doesn't it, about Arab culture?
Absolutely. These deep-seated values, the traditions, they often carried more weight, more authority than actual government laws.
That cultural and religious foundation seems key then.
It's absolutely fundamental, and it sets the stage for the rise of movements like the Muslim Brotherhood.
Ah, right. Founded back in Egypt, wasn't it?
Yeah, by Hassan al-Banna in 1928. The whole goal was rebuilding society based on Islamic principles, and it spread, reaching Palestine by around 1935.
And this is where the ideology gets really interesting, or perhaps intense is a better word. The sources talk about this Islamic ladder.
Yes, it's a metaphor they use for the progression of Islamic life. Prayer might be at the bottom rung, but jihad, that's seen as the highest calling.
It even puts forward this really challenging idea that so-called moderate Muslims could be more dangerous because their path towards fundamentalism might be, well, invisible.
It's a stark perspective, no doubt, and it reflects the internal struggles within the movement itself.
How so?
Well, you had significant debates inside the Palestinian Muslim Brotherhood. Leaders in the West Bank initially were more inclined towards nonviolence.
Okay.
But the younger generation, especially in Gaza, they were pushing hard for direct action against the Israeli occupation.
So a real tension there.
Definitely. And it led to this pivotal meeting in Hebron in 1986. Mosab's father was there with 6 others.
And what happened?
They decided to initiate a fight against Israel, starting with civil disobedience. And that meeting, it's really seen now as the sort of unofficial birth of Hamas.
And the start of the first intifada.
Exactly. Which is the world Mosab grew up in.
So he came of age right in the middle of all that chaos.
Imagine it. His family home frequently caught in the crossfire. He talks about water tanks on their roof just shredded by bullets.
Oh, wow.
And the local cemetery filling up with fresh corpses, often unwashed because of the situation. It was constant, intense conflict.
And he wasn't just an observer, right? He actually took part as a kid.
He did, throwing stones at Israeli military vehicles. He even described it as feeling this addictive rush from challenging the army.
What was the day-to-day reality like for most Palestinians then, beyond the direct violence?
It was incredibly harsh. You had curfews where just being on the street meant you could get shot, no warnings.
Just shot.
Yeah. And strikes, which were meant to hurt Israel, often ended up crippling their own Palestinian economy.
And there was disillusionment, too.
A lot of it. A growing feeling that the PLO leadership, the Palestine Liberation Organization, was corrupt. That eroded trust quite a bit.
And for Mosab's family specifically, the cost was immense. You mentioned his father.
His father was arrested constantly, 13 times in total.
13 times.
Which meant his mother really struggled. She had to sell homemade baklava just to feed the kids.
And Mosab himself.
He described picking rotting vegetables from undermarket carts just to survive as a child.
It paints such a vivid picture. A childhood just steeped in conflict, hardship, where every day was a struggle.
Absolutely. And that sets the stage for what happens next.
Which takes a really dark turn in 1986, right? His first imprisonment.
Yeah, he was only 18. Arrested for trying to buy guns, though they were apparently inoperative.
And he ends up in the Mascovia Detention Center, nicknamed the Slaughterhouse. That sounds ominous.
It was horrific, by his account. Extreme cold, constant deafening music. Apparently, Leonard Cohen's First We Take Manhattan played endlessly.
As psychological torture.
Exactly. Sleep deprivation, physical abuse, and the sanitary conditions were just unspeakable. He described a toilet leaking waste onto the floor, onto his mattress.
It sounds like deliberate dehumanization.
Completely.
Yeah.
Designed to break people down.
But this is also where the Shin Bet, the Israeli internal security, showed a different side, more tactical.
Yeah, it's quite ingenious in a chilling way. They put his cousin, the one involved with the guns, in the cell right next to him.
So they could overhear.
Precisely. They could verify Mosab's story by listening in, using psychological pressure, information, not just, brute force.
Clever. And then came the offer.
Right. Soon after, he meets Loai, his Shin Bet handler. And Loai basically offers him a way out of this mess, become an informant.
Why him? Why recruit an 18-year-old kid, even if he is the son of a Hamas leader?
Well, that was key. His access, being Sheikh Hassan Yousef's son, gave him potentially invaluable inside knowledge.
Okay.
And the Shin Bet seemed to believe he was, I suppose, potentially dangerous enough himself that recruiting him was worth the risk.
So he agrees. Or does he go to another prison first?
He gets transferred first to Megiddo Prison, a larger facility. And it's there he witnesses something even more disturbing than the Israeli interrogations.
What was that?
He saw Hamas's own internal security wing, they called a Maj, systematically torturing other Palestinians, their own prisoners.
Wait, Hamas torturing Hamas members?
Yeah.
Or suspected collaborators?
Suspected collaborators, fellow Muslims inside the prison. And the methods he described, they were just barbaric.
Like what?
Needles under fingernails, melting plastic onto bare skin, burning body hair, forcing people into agonizing stress positions.
Like...
They even had this elaborate shell game, moving victims around constantly to hide them from the Israeli guards during counts.
That must have been deeply shocking for him.
It was a profound moment of disillusionment. He realized that Hamas, the very organization supposedly fighting for his people's freedom, was capable of such cruelty against its own.
It completely contradicted his image of the resistance.
And his image of his father, who he saw as compassionate, he started asking himself, is this Hamas? Is this Islam? It shook him to his core.
He even found a riot that happened there, the Megiddo riot, to be kind of pointless.
Yeah, he described it as insane. But ironically, that very riot actually put a stop to the internal Hamas torture, at least for a while.
So after seeing this betrayal from within, he gets released in 1997. And that's when he starts his secret life.
That's when he becomes the Green Prince. Green for Hamas heritage, Prince for, well, his status, and working for the Shin Bet.
How did the Shin Bet handle him initially? What were his first assignments?
Surprisingly, they told him to get an education, build a legitimate life, a successful cover.
Wow.
Their thinking was that people believed only losers, people who couldn't make it otherwise, would collaborate with the Israelis. So he needed to seem successful, independent.
That's smart. Counterintuitive almost.
Very. And what really struck Mosab, according to his account, was the way his handlers treated him.
How so?
With unexpected humanity, even respect. They provided halal food. They were careful about gestures that might be offensive in his culture.
Little things, but they add up.
Exactly. And these small acts started to chip away at the intense hatred he'd been raised with, his hatred for Israelis. It challenged everything.
And this led to a really fundamental shift in how he saw things.
A huge shift. He started to feel that the real enemies weren't defined by nationality or religion.
But by what then?
by destructive internal flaws, things like greed, pride, and all the bad ideas and the darkness of the devil that live inside us, as he put it.
That's a radical reframing, not just for him, but for how we think about conflict general.
It really is. It suggests the main battle isn't external, it's internal.
Okay, so fast forward a bit to 2000. The Second Intifada kicks off. How did Mosab view that?
He saw it increasingly through cynical eyes. He believed Yasser Arafat actually rejected genuine peace offers at Camp David.
Rejected them. Why?
According to Mosab's perspective in the source material, Arafat deliberately orchestrated the uprising, the Al-Aqsa Intifada, to gain more leverage, more international funding.
Using Hamas and even Mosab's own father as pawns.
Exactly. Pawns in a larger, self-serving political game, and Mosab developed this deep disgust for leaders.
Which leaders?
Palestinian leaders who, he felt, would send their people out to die like goats to a slaughter, he said, while they stayed safely out of the way, only to then rush forward for the cameras at the funerals.
That level of cynicism must have been corrosive.
Absolutely. And all this time, he's operating as the Green Prince.
And getting deeper in.
Incredibly deep into Hamas's political wing, its military wing. He even got access to Arafat's private meetings.
Wow. What did he do with that access?
He copied notes, things that revealed coordination between different factions, planned demonstrations, even targeting patterns. He identified key Hamas leaders, like Odeh.
And he uncovered links between Hamas and Arafat's own forces.
Yeah, surprisingly, between Hamas military operations and Arafat's elite unit, Force 17, that was a significant revelation.
But this deep access must have put him in impossible situations morally.
Absolutely. He faced this defining dilemma. The Shin Bet wanted to assassinate certain figures.
Like who?
Like Salah Talami, a brilliant Hamas bomb maker who Mosab actually considered a friend, and other potential suicide bombers too.
And Mosab refused.
He refused to allow the assassinations. He insisted they be arrested instead, even though that put his own cover at immense risk.
Why? What stopped him?
His conscience, which by this point was being increasingly shaped by, well, his developing spiritual beliefs. He just couldn't sanction killing.
It takes extraordinary courage. And it seems to fit with what the Shin Bet valued.
In a way, yes. They relied heavily on human intelligence, on understanding motivations. They saw that as crucial, especially after 9/11, where maybe U.S. intelligence had over-relied on technology.
They needed people like Mosab.
People who understood the inside, the human element.
Yeah.
And Mosab was playing this incredibly high-stakes game. He even orchestrated a fake escape during an IDF raid on his own family's home.
A fake escape? To what end?
To bolster his cover, make him look like a wanted, dangerous fugitive in the eyes of Hamas. And crucially, it also protected his father from potential Israeli assassination attempts. They needed Sheikh Yousef alive, perhaps for political reasons or as leverage.
Just layers upon layers of deception.
And amidst all this, something else profound was happening to him personally.
This is the spiritual transformation you mentioned.
Oh.
The Damascus Road experience.
Exactly. It started around 1999, maybe a bit earlier, and continued through the early 2000s. It began with a chance encounter.
Right.
At Damascus Gate in Jerusalem, he met a British Christian tourist.
And that led to?
It led him to a Bible study group at the YMCA, and someone gave him a copy of the New Testament.
And reading that changed things.
Fundamentally, he read Jesus's words, things like, do not judge, and crucially, love your enemies.
Love your enemies.
Sure.
For someone in his position.
It shattered everything. His
Yeah.
whole understanding of conflict, of justice. It made him question everything he'd been taught about God, about Allah.
How radical would that message feel coming from his background?
Utterly radical. A
So-
complete inversion of the eye for an eye mentality he was immersed in.
And did this new perspective affect how he viewed Islam at the time?
It did. He became increasingly disillusioned with what he saw as hypocrisy.
For instance.
Like how anyone killed by Israelis, regardless of their actual beliefs or actions, whether they were devout or not, would be automatically declared a holy martyr.
For political gain.
Exactly. He saw it as manipulation. And this whole spiritual journey culminated in something huge.
What was that?
His secret baptism in 2005 on a beach in Tel Aviv.
Secretly baptized. As the son of Hamas founder.
Can you imagine the risk? If anyone had found out, it would have almost certainly meant his death. He was risking absolutely everything for this newfound faith.
So his double life continues, but now with this added layer of secret faith.
Yeah.
And then comes Operation Defensive Shield in 2002.
Right. And Mosab engineers another move. He deliberately gets himself arrested and imprisoned with his father.
As part of the cover.
Exactly. Act 2 of his staged operation. It solidified his credentials within Hamas while he was still feeding information out.
What was his mindset during that imprisonment now that his perspective had shifted so much?
It's fascinating. He describes having this unexpected lack of bitterness towards his Israeli interrogators this time around.
Really? Why?
He attributed it to what he called the living and active words of Jesus working inside him. It allowed him, he said, to see people just as people,
Not that way.
not Jew or Arab, prisoner or torturer, just people. He even kept studying the Bible in prison.
And he met someone else there with a similar conflict.
Remarkably, yes. He met a Jewish Israeli man who was actually imprisoned for refusing to serve in the IDF.
Why?
Because of his Christian belief in loving enemies. Imagine that connection right there in an Israeli prison.
That's incredible, a shared conviction across enemy lines.
It really highlights the power of individual conscience transcending the conflict.
And later, he's involved in or witnesses the capture of a major Hamas figure.
Yes, Ibrahim Hamad, the head of Hamas's military wing at the time.
How did that go down?
Hamad surrendered completely naked without any fight at all,
Which contrasted sharply
with his own orders to his fighters, which were always to fight to the death to become martyrs. It just screamed hypocrisy to Mosab.
another example of leaders not practicing what they preach.
Precisely. And then came the 2006 Palestinian elections.
Hamas won those, didn't they? Including his father.
They did. His father reluctantly ran and won overwhelmingly, but Mosab was dismayed.
Why? Shouldn't he be happy for his father, for Hamas?
He feared it would be a disaster for the Palestinian people. He just didn't believe Hamas, with its rigid ideology, could actually govern effectively.
Because governing requires compromise, flexibility.
Things he felt Hamas was incapable of. He saw revolution and governance as fundamentally different things.
So all these experiences, the danger, the hypocrisy, the internal conflict, it must have taken a toll.
An immense toll. The weight of the secret, the constant deception, living this unsustainable double life. He was exhausted.
And he came to a realization about the broader conflict.
Yeah, a profound one. He concluded that the war on terror, as it was called, couldn't actually be won with military force alone.
Why not?
Because, as he put it, the real enemies are ideas.
And you can't fight ideas with weapons.
Exactly. He said, ideas don't care about incursions and curfews. We can't blow up an idea with a Merkava, referring to the Israeli tank.
So what did he decide to do?
He decided to quit, to stop working for the Shin Bet.
Did they try to keep him?
Oh, yes. They offered him wealth, protection, influence. They apparently offered to set him up with a communications business, give him money, everything he might need.
But he turned it down.
He turned it all down.
Yeah.
He said he prioritized true freedom over power or money.
And that meant leaving.
It did. In 2007, he made this dramatic departure from the Middle East, headed for the United States.
Under what pretext?
Under the guise of needing medical treatment. It was a huge deal. The Shin Bet had apparently never let someone with his level of knowledge just leave.
Wow. So he gets to the U.S., and then comes the big reveal.
Then comes the moment of truth. In 2008, he goes public, tells his story to an Israeli journalist.
Yeah, and the headline was.
Prodigal son, which pretty apt, I suppose.
And after going public, he had to tell his father.
That must have been the hardest part. He called his father, who was still in prison in Israel.
And confessed everything. The decade working for Shin Bet.
Everything. But he also told him something crucial.
What's that?
That his actions, his collaboration, had actually kept his father alive. That the Shin Bet had plans to assassinate him, and Mosab intervened, preventing it multiple times.
What an incredible high-stakes confession. How did his father react?
Initially just stunned silence, you can only imagine. But then his father did something truly unbelievable, an act of, well, of love and protection.
He didn't condemn him?
He refused to publicly disown Mosab, even though Hamas was demanding it.
Knowing that disowning him would
Essentially be a death sentence for Mosab at the hands of Hamas. His father protected him even then.
That's astounding, even across that immense divide.
It really underscores the complex loyalties, the human element beneath the politics, that family bond, that love, somehow transcended it all.
So looking back at Mosab's entire journey, it really is just a powerful story of transformation, isn't it?
Absolutely. From this, vengeful kid caught up in a cycle of hatred.
To someone who makes these unimaginable choices, goes through this profound spiritual change.
And comes to believe that the real fight is internal. that love and forgiveness are somehow the only real answers.
Yeah, and I think this deep dive into his life gives us such a unique perspective on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's so much more complex than the headlines.
It really takes you inside, in a way few stories can, and it forces you to question those easy labels, right? Hero, traitor.
Yeah, they seem almost inadequate here. His actions were driven by conscience, by courage, even if they look like betrayal from one side.
Exactly, and it pushes this really provocative idea.
That maybe lasting peace only comes when people are brave enough to look for the enemy inside themselves first.
And then choose a different path. Choose forgiveness, maybe.
Mosab himself argues exactly that. He says, truth and forgiveness are the only solution for the Middle East.
And he adds that the challenge isn't finding the solution. Israelis and Palestinians know what needs to happen broadly.
The challenge.
You'd be the first courageous enough to embrace it, to actually take that step towards truth and forgiveness.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Where in your own life, or maybe in the wider world you see, is there a conflict just waiting?
Waiting for someone to be courageous enough to embrace that truth, that forgiveness, to be the first one to step forward.